This segment of the Bass Tour Anglers podcast is brought to you in part by Top Tier Tackle. With over 30 years of experience in the rod building industry, look for Top Tier's XT, Affinity, and Valor series this fall, wherever fine tackle is sold. Well, welcome to our Winner's Circle segment, everybody. Our guest is a second-year Elite Series Pro, 2018 BASS Central Opens Angler of the Year, Bassmaster Classic qualifier in 2019. He's currently 16th place in this year's Elite Series Angler of the Year point standing. He is the champion of the Lake Guntersville Elite Series event. Welcome to the show, Frank Talley. By the way, you almost won last week too.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk fishing and get to be able to visit with the fans and that type of stuff. So I'm excited. Well, thank you.
You guys are fishing 3 straight Elite Series events. Thanks for taking your time out from practice at Chickamauga. That's Chickamauga in the background, right?
Yes, sir. That's Dayton Boat Docks right there, right in the creek, right behind me.
Well, I won't ask you how you're doing, but thanks for taking the time out to do this with us. So coming to Guntersville, I'm kind of interested in knowing what were your pre-tournament thoughts? I mean, before you got there, driving up to Guntersville, what were you thinking about the lake? You guys don't fish many fall events, right?
Correct, and that was the big decision maker. I knew that, if it was a pre-spawn event, kind of like the Classic was this year there, or if it was a summer event, it was going to play out a lot different, and the weights were going to be a lot, different. But knowing that it was a fall tournament, in my mind, I thought we were going to need around 16 and a half pounds a day to at least make the top 10 and possibly, make a run at it. And that's really where the numbers actually fell. And I knew that the river would play in the fall. You can never do any good in the fall. I mean, in the rest of the year up in the river, but being fall time and the weights being lower, I knew it would play. I just didn't think it was going to actually be able to win out of it. Nobody else thought of that either, but it ended up, working out. But that's the whole reason. There's more fish up in the river in Guntersville and they don't get pressured. Everybody wants to fish down the lake because that's where the bigger fish are. So, I just played the, law of averages, and I'm like, man, if I can just catch 14 a day, make the top 20, I'll be good and get out of Dodge. Well, it ended up working out a little bit better.
Well, now Guntersville is known for its ledge fishing, and that ledge typically is river channel. So going up river kind of lends itself to ledge fishing, right?
Yes, and that's all. And that's all the river is just one gigantic ledge on both sides. It tapers off the bank slowly, about 15 or 20 foot off the bank, and then it drops straight off, into the river channel on both sides. So technically, it's just one long 30-mile long ledge. To basically is a easy way of putting it. But the eelgrass is what was the big factor there for sure.
Okay, well, how did practice go? What did you discover in practice? Did you have any idea you were on the kind of fish it would take to win?
No, the biggest fish that I caught in practice wasn't even in the river. It was like a 4.5 pounder, and it was down in the mid-lake area, bound by Goose Pond. Miracle Mile is what they call it. And so, I went up in the river, and I didn't get on that bite up in the river. I fished it the first day and just couldn't get anything going, like bigger than 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds. And that wasn't what I was, my target weight that we discussed earlier at 14 pounds. So I'm like, I got to do something. So I went down the lake for the next day and a half and found a few pods of fish and some grass, some isolated grass out there. I was throwing a red eye shad at them and catching them, but they just weren't the quality either. They're 2.25. So then the last day I ran back up the river with about 2 hours left, and I just picked an area that I thought had potential to see if they were really going to be there. And within 5 casts, I had 3-pound bites, and I left, and I just knew that I would just run new water come tournament time because it all looks the same, meaning it's literally 30 straight miles of the identical, exact same taper with the ledge that drops off. And so it was just I knew I could just run basically on the seat of my pants, run that pattern, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, like you said, people just don't, for whatever reason, don't typically fish upriver in these big tournaments. They fish down where the big fish traditionally are caught. Did you feel like the fish you were fishing for were less pressured?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the fish down in the the fish down in the main lake. Every one of them had hook holes in them, coal buoy holes in their underneath their lip. The fish up in the river never had been hooked before. I mean, they were pristine. They were real fat, real round. I mean, they were gorging themselves on shad and brim. And I mean, these fish haven't been touched. I mean, you could tell nobody fishes like that for them. But now, of course,
Yeah, now those fish are going to wonder what the heck just happened to us. Are you looking for a bass rod that won't break your bank? Introducing the XT series from Top Tier Tackle. Proprietary carbon nano blank, grade A full cork handle and foregrip, top performance stainless steel, tangle-free guides, lightweight and durable, and a 1-year limited warranty. Visit their website at www.t3rods.com. We're speaking to Frank Talley. He is the champion of the BASS Elite Series event at Lake Guntersville. You mentioned that most of the fish you caught came on a bladed jig, and I'll let you tell us about that in a second. But I want to know why a bladed jig and not a spinnerbait. I'm an older guy, and we threw spinnerbaits, and now it seems like all the young guys are throwing bladed baits. In my mind, I don't know what the difference is. What's the difference between that bladed bait and a spinnerbait?
the biggest key is I'm a spinnerbait fisherman myself. That's first and foremost. I love to throw a spinnerbait. The difference between the two is, of course, a spinnerbait has flash, has vibration. You can fish at different, depths in the water column. But a bladed jig, it's something about that with grass, around grass especially. It just excels. It's got a real tight wobble and a lot of vibration, and it's so weedless. With a spinnerbait, trying to throw that into the eelgrass and the hydrilla, as soon as a piece of it gets wrapped on the blades around the swivel of the blade, it just locks down and you've fouled your cast up for the whole, retrieve. So with a bladed jig, you can rip it. You'll see me in the video and on live and stuff. I'd be constantly ripping it free of the grass. And a lot of times that triggers the bite as soon as you rip it free. Those fish are right there, or they're following it. You rip it free and they react to it and they just grab it, real quick. But, it's just a great bait around vegetation, any kind of flooded, vegetation. It's just way more, weedless, and it's a lot more subtle. With a spinnerbait, you have to really, other than pre-spawn time, in my opinion, I believe that you have to have wind to catch them good on a spinnerbait. And with a chatterbait, style bait, you don't have to have any wind. It can be slick, it can be dingy, it can be clear. You just base your water clarity on the color that you want to throw. But it's just a more subtle presentation. But wind has the biggest thing to do with it. And there wasn't a lot of wind on days 3 and 4. So, I opted with that bladed jig.
Now let's get specific about this bait. What's the bait? Who makes it? What was the size?
Okay, it's a Strike King Thunder Cricket. It's a half ounce. I throw half ounce 95% of the time. I'll throw a 3/8 rarely, and I'll go up to like a 3/4 if I'm fishing like deep grass. And when I say deep grass, like 10 foot of water or deeper, I'll throw a 3/4. But it was a half ounce Strike King Thunder Cricket, green pumpkin, with a blade minnow, Strike King blade minnow, green pumpkin trailer, and I was dipping the very tip of it, the little forks in the tail, chartreuse with just spike it, garlic, chartreuse dip and dye. And then I'd spray some. I have a little concoction. It's just basically it's Bang liquid that's shad and crawfish mix, and I just spray it on there, and about every 50 cast I'll hit it again. It's just something mind wise. I know it can't hurt, so I'm just like, what the heck, I don't know if it does work, but it can't hurt. So
Oh, well, it's got to make your head right. I completely understand that. It's got to make your head right, right?
yes, sir. Confidence is the number one key in bass fishing, or any type of fishing, or any type of sports. Really, is confidence. And if you don't have confidence in what you're throwing or what you're using, then you're not probably most likely going to catch anything. And I've caught some crazy. I mean, the last 5 tournaments, people are like, guys even on tour, like, you made that happen in this gin clear water up north or whatever, and it's because I have confidence in the bait. So that's the reason why it ends up working. Sometimes it's not the best choice of lures, but it's what you have confidence in, and you can make it happen.
We're talking to Frank Talley. He is the Lake Guntersville Elite Series champion of that event. He's given us some really, really good information. Now, tell us how the event unfolded for you. Pretty good first day. You seemed to get stronger each day, and that fourth day you knocked it out of the park. How did each day go for you?
The first day I ran some stuff down the lake, like I had kind of mentioned earlier, on some grass humps and stuff in like 5 foot of water down in the main lake. I ran that first because it was closer to takeoff. And then I came out of there after I ran that for about 2.5 hours that morning. I only had one keeper fish to show for it, about a 2.5 pounder. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is time to see if this pattern that I found the night before is gonna hold up, And so I went up there, and it was probably around 10 in the morning or so, and by like 11:15, in an hour and 15 minutes, I stopped on my first spot. I caught like 3. And then I went to it, and I fished that for about 500-600 yards, and then I went up to the next spot and ended up finishing my limit out. But I didn't catch any real big ones that day. I just caught nice solid fish, and I think roughly I had like middle of the pack. I was like 14 pounds and some change. So I mean, I was sitting in like the top 25 at that time after the first day, so it was good. And then the second day, I tried to do it again down there at the main lake, because it's so close to takeoff, and I hit that, didn't catch anything but a couple of short fish. So I ran up there, and by that time I was up there around 9 o'clock in the morning, and that's when I weighed in a pretty solid sack that day, and I had caught a couple of 4-pounders, and then I went up farther and started throwing a frog, and I ended up catching like a 4.5 right close to the end of the day. And so that put my limit together. And I think that day I had like, I want to say 16 and some change that day. And so that put me in the top, like the top 12, I believe, after the second day. And then the third day, I went straight to the river. I was like, heck with this. I'm going straight to the river. And I went to the river, and I had boat problems. This is the type of tournament, when it's meant to be, it's meant to be. You can't derail it. When it's meant for you to win, it's meant for you to win. Well, I was fishing. I had like 3 little fish. I went to move spots, and I had outboard issue. My shift actuator went out, so the computer was saying that it was in gear, so it wouldn't fire the motor. So I called the tournament director, Tripp, and I told him I was going to call my traveling buddy, my roommate, Brad Watley, and he didn't make the day 3 cut. So he was eating breakfast with him and Chris Grow. And while I was waiting, I got a hold of them. They said, we're on our way. They threw their pancakes down at the Waffle House, and they came and brought me a boat. Well, while I was waiting for them to bring me a boat, I had nothing but a trolling motor, so I just fished up the bank, and I caught 2 3.5 pounders in like 15 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, I can see this. This is where this is headed. And so then I went up, exchanged boats. That was like about noontime by the time they got it to me and everything. So I had a couple hours left to fish, and I went up north just kept working up higher and higher up in the river, and I ended up catching a 4.5 and a 4 back to back, and then so I had like another like 16 or so pounds that day, and so I mean it was just, and then that had me sitting in like sixth place after day 3, and then day 4, running up the river first thing. It's foggy. We had a fog delay that morning, and then they let us go. I ran up the river, and I looked at this bank that I had been passing like every day going up there, and I'm like, I haven't hit this bank yet, and it looks right. So I just made audible, pulled in there, and the 5th cast I caught a 5 something, and then within 45 minutes I had a limit, and the last fish that I caught was a 4 something, and so I had a 5 something and a 4 something, and then good fish in between, and basically had my day. I caught one more fish at the end of the day that helped me, and ended up weighing in that 18 and some change the last day, and came from behind and ended up winning by I think like 2.5 or 3 pounds.
Frank, I watched. I love Bassmasters coverage. I watched the live feed on, I think it was Saturday. I think it was Saturday. Maybe it was Sunday. But the day 4, and you're running upriver, and then you abruptly stop, and we come to find out that you fished something that you had never fished before, and it's intuition, I think, is what it is. How often do those little voices talk to you when you're fishing, and how often do you act on them?
Nowadays, I act on them every time that they pop into my mind and into my thought process. Younger in my career, like when I was, fishing regional stuff and team tournament stuff, and back home, you'd fight it and like, just kind of, sometimes you would take advantage of it, sometimes you wouldn't. But nowadays I've learned the gut, other than your boat and your equipment, your gut is the third best thing that you have going for you, because you just learn to listen to it, because there's a reason why it's telling you to do that. And it was strong that morning when I was running up there, and I'm like, you know what, I got to hit this or I'm not going to be able to live with myself, because I hadn't been getting up there, like I said, till 9 or 10 in the morning for most of the tournament. So I wasn't worried about getting an early morning bite, so to speak. So I was like, what the heck, I can spend 45 minutes to an hour on this bank and see what happens. And it didn't take long. When I stuck that fish after the first 2 or 3 minutes I was there, and I was like, that gave me confidence, and I went up probably about another 10 or 15 minutes and caught another one, and then 10 minutes later another one. It just started rolling. I'm like, yeah, you can't drive me away from here for nothing. I'm camped here for a while.
Frank, one of the things I try to do in these interviews is I try to pull really important things out from the guys that I talk to, and I think we just did that. Our intuition, that little voice that talks to us, it doesn't come from random places. It comes from our past experiences. And if you've had experience on a bank like that before, like you were all day for 3 days, you got to listen to that. And I know in my own fishing, and I think in a lot of other people's, you can turn a bad day into good by listening to those. But we typically get down on ourselves, right? This isn't working, so I'm not going to do that, But that's what it is, right?
That's exactly what it is. Honestly, your best and worst enemy is right here between the ears, your mind and your brain, because in this type of high stakes bass fishing, because that's what we call it, is basically we're gamblers. I mean, we put $5,000 down every tournament, and we gamble that $5,000 for either black or red. You know what I mean? So, you've got to trust your gut and your instinct, and I've learned that the hard way. I mean, there's times, like I said, that I haven't trusted it and it's ended up costing me. And there's times that I've trusted it and it's I roll 7 or 11, on the first come out. So it's been better than it has been, more often than not, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah. I learned to listen to it. And at this level, you have to listen to your gut. I mean, there's been so many big tournaments won that way that you're just fighting fate if you don't try to do it.
It's definitely a psychology for sure. Now, when I watched that, you commented in the telecast, and I also could tell by looking at the water that current was moving on that last day, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was pumping like 43. They said 43,000 CFMs, which is
Wow. Yeah.
cubic feet a second. Yeah, and they say fishing gets good there on like 28 or 30, and very rare. Yeah, very rare does it get up over 40, and it was at 43, and yeah, it was pumping. It took. I was putting my trolling motor on. I run a Minn Kota Ultrex, and I was putting it on 8 out of 10 just to stay steadily, slowly moving forward. So I mean, it was taxing all day, And I run lithium batteries, and the reason why I do is because they don't show any lithium batteries don't show a decline throughout the day in power. They stay the exact same power from the time you start to the time you end. So you don't see a decrease in power throughout the day, but yet when they do run out, they don't give you any warning. They're done, So, but you need that power for that 8 hours to just sit in that current, because that current was rolling like when I would let it go and not push the trolling motor back, we were rolling like 1.7, 1.8 miles an hour backwards, So it was a strong current.
Tired of the same old, same old? Check out the new Affinity Rod Series from Top Tier Tackle. Soft touch EVA split grip, custom 30-ton nano blank, C-grade reel seat, top performance stainless steel, tangle-free guides, ultra lightweight, superior impact and fracture resistant, and a limited 3-year warranty. Visit their website at www.t3rods.com. We're talking to Elite Series Lake Guntersville champion Frank Talley. He's given us so much good information today. Frank, now here's your situation. Sitting in 16th place in Angler of the Year points, making that top spot might be a reach, but you're comfortably inside that Bassmaster Classic qualifying slot. You got Chickamauga and you got Lake Fork left. Do you fish differently in those events?
No, honestly, I'm going to fish the same way I fished all year, and that's just fishing my strengths and fishing what I feel like at the present moment, and just go out there. And I'm going to be honest with you. You said at the beginning of the broadcast you weren't going to ask me how the practice has been going, but I'm going to tell you right now, I caught 3 keepers yesterday, and I didn't have a single bite today. Not a
That sounds
bite.
like one of my days. It sounds like me fishing.
Yeah, so right now, I mean, I'm at the point where I'm like, I got to find something out for the last day of practice tomorrow, and if I don't, I'm going out there to where I got to catch a single fish to get my points to even make sure. But that's not what I'm looking at. I go out there because I want to win every time, and so, but some of my worst practices have been my best events this year and over my career, but especially this year. So I'm concerned about it because it does play a little mind games with you, but in the same sense, it is brutal out here. And I'm here to say, so your listeners and everybody out there can hear it first. I bet you 55 pounds wins this event. It'll be the lowest winning weight all season because it's fishing that tough. And now we are supposed to get some cool weather in the next couple days, and that could turn things around. But bottom line is, right now, you're hard pressed to catch a limit. That's how tough it is.
Okay, so from that Guntersville week, what would you say is the biggest thing you learned about yourself as a fisherman, as a person, all those things? What did you learn that week about yourself?
That basically, in layman's terms, I'm a cool character under pressure, a cool cat under pressure. I mean, I knew there wasn't a whole lot of pressure as far as from the media and stuff, sitting in 6th place, 4 pounds back going into that last day. But for me, I slept great. I didn't have any issues. I knew I was going to catch them. I just didn't know how good I was going to catch them. There's times you ask any professional that they'll know days that you're just going to go out and catch them. I mean, I was catching too many fish every day not to know that I wasn't going to catch them. The weather wasn't going to change. No variables were really going to interfere. So it was just a matter of going out there and trying to get the big bites. And I sure as enough did get the big bites. I was blessed with that, no doubt, and I did. I prayed for that. I said, just let me have 3 of the right bites. And I ended up getting them. And I was, that's what I needed, and I'm glad, everything worked out. But the guys that I was competing against, they're all, good friends of mine. And they're just, I mean, I just hate for one guy to win. I love to win, but I hate to see somebody else lose, and that's the hard part. And a lot of guys just don't care, but I do. I have a soft spot in my heart for the guys I compete against, because I've been there. I've lost, and it's a bad feeling, but you regroup so quick and get over it and you move on to the next one.
Well, I tell you what, I know that I have got a new angler that I'm going to watch every event, because I love your story. And I think that the bass fishing fans of America have got a new hero to watch as well. Frank, thanks for taking your time today. Best of luck to you this coming weekend at Chickamauga, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and stuff. It means the world to me, and anytime you'd ever like me on again, I'd be happy to do it. Thank you.
You got it. You got it. Win this weekend.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna give it a whirl, but keep following me. If I do slip up this weekend, don't hold it against me. This stuff's as tough as boot leather right now out here.
Absolutely not. Take care. Take care.
All right. Thank you.